Okay, good morning. Hey, I'm Andy Stewart. I'm from Cisco Systems, and we have a retired Navy captain at an Army conference. Awesome to be talking today. I'll be joined later by Mike Capace from Current Technologies. And what I hope to give you today is not another Zero Trust briefing, actually not another AI briefing. I'm going to actually try to connect MDMP, cool, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about an operational approach. Let's talk about data science. Let's talk about Zero Trust. And I've got like 15 minutes, actually 14 minutes, 30 seconds to do it. The other part about my background, just for full disclosure, other than being the N3 at Fleet Cyber Command, I was a data scientist. I was an operations research guy at post-grad school, and that shaped the way I think about problems as a data problem. I don't know if you guys caught the keynote with General Miles. Couldn't have asked for a better setup because he talked about approaching this as a data problem. So I'm going to try to convince you that this is a data problem and a data-driven problem. And again, if I get a little excited, a little emotional, this is somewhat cathartic. It's sort of like therapy. Because back in the day when I was supporting then CNO Gilday at Fleet Cyber Command, he would get into these Zero Trust kind of conversations. We actually didn't have that language in 2017, where he would get into this AI-driven conversation. And I actually didn't have the ability to give him the discussion I'm going to have with you today. So for me, this is kind of like therapy, and then I'm going to give you the discussion that I wish I used to have. And his really focus was on cybersecurity and getting about how we operate the network. And when you're a commander, when you get to be a 3 and 4 star, you use this kind of language. You don't use ICAM, you don't use comply to connect, you don't use identity, you use the operational language. And this is the operational language we use to command and control the domain, right? As with any domain. And command and control is really where I'm going to focus, but it's to do all those other things, protection, sustainment, fires, definitely incorporating maneuver and intelligence. And just quick war college remove. Command and control is two things. It's not computers and communications, right? It's command authority invested in a commander to do what? To issue controlling actions to a subordinate for the accomplishment of a mission. And probably when I think about the art of command and control, one of the best articles, and again, Navy guy has to have a Navy reference at an Army conference, is Vice Admiral Willard, who wrote about the discovering the art of command and control. And what he talks about in this article, highly recommend, is that commander's intent is brought into the force by the commander providing controlling actions to the unit's specific capabilities. And the idea is that the commander knows something. The commander is informed. The commander has threat intelligence. The commander understands the scheme of maneuver, and the commander's knowledge is the basis for issuing those controlling actions. And in this environment, some of those things might be typical exercising centralized command, issuing microsegmentation, handling network authentication. It could be provisioning devices and making adjustments in response to threat. These are all things that are controlling actions in this domain. The challenge with this domain is these things happen now at the speed of light, right? These things happen at machine space. So how do we get that commander's intent? How do we boil that into the network and have the network understand and be able to apply those controlling actions? And again, just a reminder, war college refresher again, quick. Commander's intent is really two things. It's purpose and end state, right? Alpha and omega. But the real art is how do I arrange these key tasks in an efficient way? How do I arrange them in a scheme of maneuver to efficiently achieve the end states and the objectives requirement? And how do I adjust them during the course of the battle, during the course of operations? That's really what's key, and doing that in an efficient way. So there may be 152 DoD Zero Trust capabilities. You wouldn't apply all 152 individually. It's how you actually bring them across pillar to implement them in a successful way. Why is this important? I see General Chase is standing behind, in the back there, kind of looking at me going, why is this important? It's actually about all the things that General Mills talked about in the keynote address. If the network is that which provides the data and maneuvers data to support joint fires, to support ISR, to support logistics, to support movement, to support the day-to-day things for protection, sustainment, maneuver that we require in the physical environment, then the network itself is what moves that data. And to do all those cool things with data that, again, General Mills, I have to thank him for the setup, to do all those cool things with data, same way we're going to do that for operations. We're going to use data to command and control the network. Why do we need to use data? Because, quite frankly, and I use the term geek as a term of affection, this is hard, but this is the world that we live in, right? We live in this kind of world as geeks, and we usually jump right into the capabilities rather than thinking through how do we need to use these capabilities together. And I talk to a lot of customers, both in defense and the commercial side, and it's actually kind of alarming that some of the basics that you should be able to answer if you're going to command and control environment, we can't answer today. Let's go back to Willard. Willard says if you don't have visibility, if you can't add information, you should not be ordering tasks, right? You can't provide controlling actions if you don't know the basics. And even some of the more advanced ones. My ability to command and control is based on my level of knowledge. So the way we have to get after this is data and through data. So what kind of data are we talking about? I'm not talking about pulling off PCAP and throwing it into a big data cloud and maybe look at it 3 or 4 months later or when we heard about an incident. No, I'm talking about telemetry streaming hot from all the devices, the networks, the switches. And this, just like we would understand the physical environment in terms of key terrain. If I was a submarine guy, I would understand pressure, temperature, salinity of water. If I was flying, I would understand temperature, pressure of the air. We have to understand the environment this way. And because it's a human-made environment, because we made it, right? This is the telemetry. These are the things we need to sense and understand in the environment. So let's go back to Zero Trust. We have end state. We have purpose from higher headquarters. We have good planning guidance, right? How many people know the NIST 800-207 and have read 800-207? Okay, it's okay if you don't put your hand up. Go read it. That is the Bible to understand what's in Zero Trust. And obviously, Homeland Security and certainly DoD have prescriptive outlines of some capabilities and those key tasks, right? Key tasks that must be performed to implement Zero Trust. And one of the models that didn't make it into the final DoD Zero Trust guide, but I love this diagram. One, because it kind of hurts your head when you look at it. Get a little dizzy about it. But they took the 7 pillars, so you have the top 5 on top, and they started putting capabilities and laying down some of those basic key tasks by pillar. And as you start studying it, you see the interrelationships with the pillars. And when you look in that lower right-hand corner, where is all the data from the 5 core pillars going? It's all going to analytics, visibility, right? And then you use that with automation and orchestration to command and control the network. This slide, this picture that was created in the previous versions of the DoD reference model, this is making Admiral Willard's point, right? Your ability to command and control those 5 core pillars is based on your visibility. And we have to do that at speed and scale with automation and orchestration. If you don't believe me, let's go back to fundamentals again. 800-207 says before you even start on a Zero Trust journey, you need to understand what are the data flows. I need to understand all the assets, the subjects, and the workflows. This is a data problem. And I sometimes talk to customers and they want Zero Trust and they haven't done the basics. I'm having like a Jack Nicholson moment and A Few Good Men. I want Zero Trust. You can't handle Zero Trust, right? If you haven't done the basics, if you haven't done the things, the fundamentals that we've always said you need to do to get to Zero Trust, you shouldn't even begin. And that's what NIST says. You need to have that understanding. That understanding comes from the data in the network. And this is really about, and General Skinner talked about it, how do we operationalize that RMF? All the things that we wanted to be doing, but we can do real time. The answer is that we're going to do that through the data. One more part about Zero Trust that I need to get off, and I'd help you understand if you're not familiar with this model, is the idea of putting that policy in the control plane, leveraging the abstraction of software-defined networking to put policy in that control plane. So that's where I'm applying commander's intent. And that's where all the data and the information from that pillar, the observability pillar, is going and feeding the decision-making capability to then enforce commander's intent back into the 5 core pillars of the network. And that's doing it right at the network switch, right at the data, right at the application load, wherever it's most efficient, and doing that in an efficient way. This is that idea of operational art. I can do this with 152 capabilities, or I can do this with a core set of capabilities that work together. And I don't have to span traffic off to some device to something that's sitting in a closet somewhere, right? I can actually do that from the telemetry running hot from the network, and I have to do that with data. So I'm going to convince you again that this is a data challenge. Because you think about that data that's running across those 5 core pillars, across the users, devices, the network, to the applications, to the workloads. It is that kind of data that you have to that we need to understand, that we have to understand at machine speed. And it's first, go back to fundamentals, understanding what's there. And now we're using more predictive AI capabilities, more automation to discover, this is what this asset is. Right? These are the fundamentals in Comply to Connect. I understand the state of the device. I understand its patch state. I can now start applying good segmentation that is informed by threat intel, right? We always bring threat intel in terms of red relative to blue. Red relative to some device on the network or something I don't even have, but to this device. What is relevant to this device? And bringing that into the decision point and applying policy that way. What else do commanders do after that? They share information. They provide context. They do additional controlling actions. And that's that other part with Zero Trust and operationalizing that. It's allowing us to talk to the SIMs, the SOARs, whatever solution you may have in the environment to get after problems or to continuously verify trust. CMDB integration. Again, I know I'm going on the geek side, but what about if I could update from an IT ops and inventory perspective and use that to inform policy back onto the network? I'm bridging inventory guys, the network guys, and security guys, all leveraging data. I know, that's crazy talk, right? It's crazy, but these are capabilities that are available today, and many you already own. It's about how do we actually bring them all together in an efficient way. Operational art. It's incredibly powerful capabilities. So, gets to the people side of this. We're going to do this in an operational approach. I think about it in an OODA loop, if you like. It's a 4-step process. You establish trust, you enforce trust-based access, continuously verify trust, and then be prepared to respond to changes. And being able to do this at speed, having humans on the loop, bringing humans in when you need, but being able to respond to changes in the network at speed, and doing that efficiently with capabilities that naturally work together. Going fast because I got to leave mic time. I'll quickly say that there are lots of capabilities that we can do this with. Go talk to the folks at the Cisco booth. They will walk you through what you already own and how to operate it. Now, with integrated with Splunk, we can provide more of that data, more database decisions, and do that across all 5 core pillars. We've even taken the hard work out of this. And again, you can go get this slide or email me. We've broken these down to the DoD capabilities that are addressed in the DoD Zero Trust reference architecture. We cover down on about 75% of them between Cisco and Splunk. We're not going to cover down on 100%. No vendor here is going to do that. What's actually important and the operational outcome that you want is how do these capabilities work together? How does the technology work together to enable better processes to enable the people to function and operate in the network? And that is the key part, because when we think about operating across this OODA loop, it's about understanding where the seams are in our organizations, right? How do we actually bring the seams together and use technology, use the data, use data-driven outcomes to improve this? Because what's coming out today, and this is what's really exciting, and I don't have enough time to talk about it, is remember that firewall rule list, right? Now we have AI assistants that are using generative AI, so I can say, hey, reconcile these firewall rules for me. Because the data and the machine can understand that data faster than the human can. Help me understand where I have segmentation issues. Help me understand where I have a policy in place that's duplicable. And we can actually use those capabilities with predictive AI and generative AI to help you do that and do that in an efficient way. I now have to turn the podium over to Mike to talk a little bit about how you actually enable the force to do all this cool stuff and their training options that are available. Over to you, Mike.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Capace. I'm with Current Technologies. I am the VP of Sales for Current, and I appreciate everybody's time. I think I have about 5 minutes, so this is going to be very brief. But what I'm here to talk about this morning is enablement, adoption, and how does that happen? It happens through training. And I've been in the training business for over 25 years, and oftentimes, we have all this cool technology and ideas and strategies and that, but what gets overlooked? The training. And what what could cause the largest problem is folks that are tasked with certain jobs and they're not trained appropriately. The company I represent works very, very closely with Cisco systems. They have a very robust training program. We work with General Chase in the back of the room and his team, and Jim Rizzler is here from Learning at Cisco. He's here because we're putting together brand new curriculum around Comply to Connect. My company has millions of dollars of equipment in a data center in Indiana, and we create live instructor-led training. Very heavy lab instructor-led hands-on training, which since COVID, a lot of that has disappeared. People forget about the training, or it's the last thing they think about, and especially since COVID, people forgot about the instructor-led style of training. But it's old school. It's what I have known for all the years I've been doing this, but it's what's most effective. So that's what we want to point out, that if you're going to be deploying all these different Cisco solutions or others, please think about us, think about this at the beginning of a deal when you're trying to implement it, because if it comes in at the end, that's where things typically go south. It also helps with employee morale, retention, satisfaction, because the better trained folks are, usually the happier they are with their positions. I have a couple of the gentlemen in the back of the room, Chuck and Ted, who have some very basic, there's Ted right here, some very basic brochures to just hand out some of our DoD classes, including a whole series of FedRAMP, leadership classes. So we have a lot of things. We are not delivering classes that would be normally set up for commercial accounts to DoD. We have very specific DoD classes for you, and they'll be handing that out. But with that being said, again, thank you for your time, and we'll be here for questions.
Any questions now? I'll take them. Better than cats? All right. Very good. All right. Thanks for your attention. Appreciate the brief.